بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب زدني علما.
Now the next option, we will be covering something called a native IPsec tunnel or static VTI. Now if you go back as already explained in the previous, that whenever you are setting up a GRE tunnel, it's going to add a GRE header. On the top of it, I'm also applying the IPsec, so it's going to add an IPsec header as well. So which is something unnecessary, because it's going to add two new IP headers. One is for the GRE and the other one for IPsec. Unnecessary two new IP headers, including your actual IP, actual data. So there is no point, doing this. So you can either remove the IPsec header or you can just remove the GRE header. So one option is we can convert this IPsec into a transport mode, which will remove this IP header. So which ensures that your packets can be transported by using the GRE information. And we did that already in the previous topic, where we have converted all the configurations of the IP we have converted into your transport mode. So when we say transport mode, it's going to remove this IPsec additional information. So which means your packets will be routed based on your GRE IP header, not based on your IPsec. So that can be removed. The alternative what I said, you can just go ahead with native IPsec. Either you can use IPsec with the transport mode, or use a native IPsec, which will remove the GRE. Opposite to the other one. So we call this concept as static VTI. We call this as a VTI concept because we will be using a native IPsec tunnel, and there is no GRE encapsulation here. Even though we are using GRE based configuration, but we are not, we are actually removing the GRE encapsulation here. So simply the native IPsec means the complete IPsec, which is not running GRE. So how does it work? The entire configuration is still the same. We need to go to the interface and create the tunnels. That's something the first step we did. If you remember, if you just go with a simple quick review of the configurations, what we did, we created a tunnel interface. And the default, it will be GRE tunnel. So default, it will be always GRE. Whenever you create any tunnel interface, the default will be GRE. And then we create an IPsec and apply the IPsec on the top of it, right? And the next thing is, here what I'm doing is, I'm going to remove the GRE header. We are just removing the GRE header here, which means we are using the tunnel-based VPNs with IPsec. So what is the advantage with this? It's going to remove that extra bytes of GRE header. And how we do this? Let me show you the configuration as well. Before that, if you remember, we changed the mode. I need to set the mode back to the tunnel. So if you remember, we have created a profile, a transform set. I had to say mode is tunnel, or you can say no mode transport. So if you verify the configurations here, I'm just leaving back to the default mode. The default mode is always tunnel. And this time I want to remove the GRE tunnel. So whenever you create, now when we do this, so whenever you are creating a tunnel, if you go back to the tunnel configurations, we created a tunnel interface, we assigned the IP, and we define the source and destination addresses. So whenever you create the tunnel, whenever I go in tunnel, the default mode will be GRE. So this tunnel mode, the default will be GRE, which is the default, even though I did not say tunnel mode command. So if you try to see, there is a command called tunnel mode, where we can change the mode, which mode this tunnel should work. So there are multiple modes it supports, and the default will be always GRE. So we don't need to specify the GRE. But in this case, I don't want a GRE encapsulation to be done. I completely want to remove the GRE encapsulation, and I want this tunnel should behave just like an IPsec tunnel, a native IPsec, just like a normal IPsec without GRE. So the entire configuration goes the same. The only thing is we need to say IPsec or IPv4. We are using IPv4 networks. We need to change this mode. So the exact same thing, I have to do it on the opposite side. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm using the default IPsec configurations. What is the default mode? The default mode will be tunnel mode. And I'm going to remove this one. Whenever you add this command, it will remove the GRE encapsulation automatically and uses a simple side-to-side IPsec tunnel with it removes the GRE. So technically, we call this as a static virtual tunnel interface. That's a technical name we generally use if I'm using an IPsec mode with the tunnel interfaces. Because this tunnel mode is no more GRE, it is changed to IPsec. Now, this is a preferred way to do. Now, why it is a preferred way? Because if you try to see here, this is your normal actual source addresses. And here I'm going to remove the GRE. GRE is completely removed and it will be using the IPsec. And other advantages, you get the same advantages or the same benefits of what you get with the GRE. Even though you remove a GRE from here and convert them to the native IPsec, it works just like the tunnel interface. You can write an ACL because whatever the ACL you apply on the tunnel interface, it will apply for tunnel physical interface separate. NAT is applied on the physical interfaces, quality of service applied on the more simplified way. There's a logical separation of these two interfaces, and you can run some routing protocols, same like what we did. Okay, so depending upon your requirement, you can go with any of these two options. Like in the exams, if they ask you to configure the IPsec in a transport mode, then you must go with a GRE header to route the packet, which is something we did in our previous example. And again, in this example, we changed the native IPsec, which means we are completely removing the GRE header from here.